Hey guys, it is John C. Morley here, serial entrepreneur. Welcome to IFYL, Inspirations for Your Life. Thanks so much for popping in. If you're new, you're going to notice a QR code at the top right. Just point your phone to the QR code and then click on the yellow ellipse that will appear. Once you have to make sure you've got it on there and then just touch that yellow ellipse. And then I'll bring you over to my link tree with lots of great information to improve the quality of your life and everyone else you care so much about. All right. So we start on a Saturday with a brand new master topic. We roll all the way through the week and we end up on a Friday, which is day 7. And we just create some amazing content to inspire you to become a better version of yourself and those you care so much about. If you're coming back and rejoining us, well, welcome. Great to have you here. You know, we're going to be celebrating our 1-year birthday for IFYL very, very soon. So really excited about that. And yes, we're going to have a small cake. And I do want to take this opportunity to thank those who have been with us for a while. And hopefully some of the new people will become loyal, just like all of them have been for a long time. And I also want to welcome our guests that are coming back to watch us from the replay. Maybe you're not watching us live, but you're on the replay, and that's great. And so we have a great topic tonight, guys. You know what that topic is? How to Reset series, episode 3. Now, we talked a little bit about resetting. I used the example of dominoes, but it doesn't have to be dominoes. It can be anything that you would think about. And so when we think about a reset, sometimes people say, a name is a reset. Other times people say, like we reset a room, for example. But what is a reset? A reset is something that causes the current state to either go back to something the way it was, which is usually what it is. And so when we say we're going to reset the pins, like, in bowling, we do a reset. Do you know what that is? In bowling, okay, we do a reset every frame or so. So there's something called the bowling reset button. And the joke is how often you use the button. So it happens that the odds are you press the reset button for a new rack of pins more often in practice than in competition. So if you fall into the trap of constantly pressing the reset button when you do not strike, you waste opportunities to practice shooting spares, as well as waste the money you paid for games of bowling. So picking up spare key shots can absolutely make or break a good game. Practicing picking up spares of all sorts is highly encouraged. If you're so concerned about getting strikes or in hitting the pocket and simply reset the pins repeatedly, you will not be practicing what you will face during competition. So reset. So how does a bowling alley reset? Let's talk about that. How does a bowling lane reset? Well, there's a floor, and there's a ball pit, and there's a conveyor belt that carries the fallen pins toward the pin elevator. And as that name implies, a bowling alley's pin elevator transports the fallen pins upwards so they can reset for the next round. Pin elevators have up to 10 slots that carry the pins to their next station. And that's how that works. They call that pin setting, or pin setters is what that is. And it's really pretty cool if you've ever got behind the scenes to see how a bowling alley functions. It's one of the coolest things, how these pins get reset. And so in the early days of bowling, respotting the pins was a very physically demanding job. And there were actually people behind the lanes resetting the pins and sending back the balls. Yes, manually. I mean, that's just cool. Today, there are these pretty clever, amazing robotic devices that do all the pin setting. And the automatic pin setter, first patented by Gottfried Schmidt, was introduced by the American Machine and Foundry Company, that's the AMF, in 1946. And the first pin setter was a monster weighing nearly 2 tons, 1.8 metric tons, and standing 9 feet, 2.7 meters tall. I mean, I think that is really, really cool. So modern pin setters are just a fraction of the size of their predecessors, and they're much more intelligent. The way the sensors work and things like that. So there are many different versions, as you know, of bowling, and they can accommodate this for the type of pin setting algorithm they're using. So a pin setter sits basically at the end of the bowling lane, and it waits for the bowler to roll a ball. For example, the Brunswick GSX pin setter, which a lot of people know, is the one we see a lot of times in alleys. And it's one of the newest pin setters in the bowling industry. The Brunswick pin setter consists of 4 main parts: the sweep, the pin elevator, the pin distributor, and the pin table. All right. So altogether, you know, there's over 4,000 individual parts that go into resetting the pins after you roll. So the automatic pin setter works with a total of 20 pins. That's twice the number needed for the 10-pin arrangement. The pin setter goes to work in cycles and set procedures that are executed after a ball has been rolled down the lane. So modern pin setters interface with a small CCD camera, and that's mounted at the farther end of the lane. And the camera quickly senses exactly which pins have been knocked down, and then relays this information to the pin setter in order so that the pin setter knows what function was performed by the pin setter itself, so it knows what to do. And it would then lower itself onto the lane, and it uses fingers to determine which pins weren't standing. Most newer pin setters still have the fingers as a backup to the CCD camera. And they may use them during situations when the camera cannot function properly, but pretty cool. Now, what happens next depends on, what happened on the bowling lane. So the cycle is pretty simple. What happens when an amateur bowler is on the lane, they typically call the first ball standing pin cycle. The cycle runs when a bowler on the first roll knocks down between 1 and 9 pins. The pin setter needs to accomplish 3 unique tasks: pick up the standing pins remaining on the lane, sweep away the dead wood, okay? Pins were knocked down, but still on the lane, and set the remaining pins back on the lane to give the bowler another chance to knock them down. So pick up the standing pins remaining on the lane, sweep away the dead wood, pins knocked down, but still on the lane, and set the remaining pins back down on the lane. Pretty simple process. The roll is detected by a sensor located just a few feet in front of the pins. And the sensor is set on a delay of a second or two to allow the ball to hit the pins and end up in the ball pit before the pin setter starts to do its thing. Otherwise, we don't want to have the pins going down the chute where the ball is, and that could be a problem coming back up to the ball return. So the ball pit is the area directly behind the rack of pins, and it handles the initial impact of both the bowling ball and, of course, the flying pins. The sweep lowers itself into a guard position on the front of the pins, and the sweep is a rectangular sheet of metal that basically protrudes downward from the front of the pins. And it also keeps any people that would probably be cheaters from rolling extra balls down the lane. And now the lane is secure. The pin setter can pick up the remaining standing pins. The pin table, which consists of the 10 holes, each big enough to fit a pin, is lowered on top of the pins. Once the pin setter, with or without aid of the CEDC camera, has determined that there are between 1 and 9 pins left, the information is sent to the automatic scoring software, and the spotting tongs are closed around the pins via the solenoid. The pin table rises again with the remaining pins held in the spotting tongues. So, pretty cool. Most bowling pin setters include over 4,000 individual parts. And according to the IBMHF, in 1841, a Connecticut law rendered 9-pin lanes illegal because of their gambling implications. So there's 2 other functions of the pin setters that are not seen by the bowler on the ball accelerator, and it's the pin elevator. The ball accelerator returns the ball to the bowler at the end of the lane through a conveyor-like system. After a roll, the ball and the knockdown pins are located behind the lane in the ball pit. Below the ball pit is a conveyor belt called the transport band. The pins and the ball fall into this band and are moved toward the pin elevator. The bowling ball takes a detour at some point along the transport band and kind of goes off through a specially designed ball door. Only the ball is heavy enough to trigger the sensor necessary to open the door, so only the ball can go through. The ball is then accelerated through a conveyor system under the lane back toward the bowler for the next roll. So the pins on the transport band continue toward the pin elevator. The pin elevator consists of about a dozen trays located on 2 pulleys, and the pin funnels onto the trays and are raised up toward the pin distributor. The distributor is located above the pin table, and it helps place new pins into the pin table so they are ready when the new rack is needed. Now, the distribution system has a mechanism known as a shark switch, and that pivots like a funnel, like a tray, back and forth onto either of the 2 conveyor belts. The position of the switch is determined by the electronics in the pin setter that know exactly where a new pin is needed. Each of the 2 conveyor belts has a number of pin stations where the pins settle into the pin table. And so then what happens is the pin table, as they are, basically as they're all laying, basically then kind of goes upside and pushes down onto the lane because, again, the table is flat. So this gives us one example of pin setting in a type of reset. So resetting is something that happens every day in our lives. And I thought that in a bowling alley, this would be really important to see because I think pin setting is pretty amazing, the way it actually works. And so in our lives, when we embrace the concept of resetting something, I mean, it could be anything. It doesn't matter what exactly it is, but we reset something. And when we reset something, then we're able to move forward, and we're able to do lots of interesting things because we're back at the point of where we started. Very similar to the way the pin setters work. They start back at a regular position. So if you were, for example, to have a, let's say, a garage door opener, the chain and the head that opens the door has to move all the way back. And then when it closes, it has to move all the way back down again. So resetting is vital for life. Tell me that's interesting. I know it is, right? Resetting is vital for life. Resetting means that we're going to take where we are and go back to some point in the past. Resetting could also mean that we want to change the way something is now and then affect it by something different. So those are 2 meanings for what reset can be. Most of the time, we use reset to get us back to a beginning position. For example, a printer resets to bring the head back. A let's say a device that does maybe we want to say like a conveyor belt. It starts from one end, it moves to the other, but it keeps going around. Now, other things that can reset in our life are lots of manufacturing devices, machines, etc. We also can get reset on music because the music has to reset to get to the next measure. So resetting is vital to the success of our lives and those around us. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. I hope that you, of course, live the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And remember that resetting is vital to the success of your life. I hope you will like, love, and support the channel. Definitely comment below, share it with your friends, colleagues, and associates, and tag them. And be sure to go to my YouTube channel, John Space C Space Morley Space serial entrepreneur. Look for that key phrase. Help keep our content free. Make the choice, ladies and gentlemen, to buy my team and I a cup of coffee, a delicious bowl of fruit, or a savory dessert. Either way, we're going to be grateful for those pennies and dollars from investment to new hardware, new technology, new equipment, new software, even new facilities, to give you the most jaw-dropping, impactful, motivational content to change your life if you really want to. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. And you know what? I'm going to see you guys tomorrow. Remember, resetting is one of the keys to the success of life. Take care, everyone.